forget about the labels. Let's forget about whether we call it strategy, discovery, design thinking, core, let's forget about what that is, because the labels, I think, can misdirect us from talking about what it is. So let's dive in a little bit deeper. So if we go up to the board here, I wrote up something, and Aaron, you can see this, right? Symptoms versus the root cause. So here's the problem. And without being too presumptive, I'm going to assume that a lot of the questions you're asking are, one, asking the client to self-diagnose and to tell you what the symptoms are, and you will treat the symptoms. Here's a topical cream, rub that on. The rash will go away. But it's actually you eating a certain kind of fruit or vegetable that's causing that rash to begin with. And so a new framework, one that I've not been exposed to in my life until the last couple of years, allowed me to understand, let's talk about your symptoms a little bit. But I have a whole new set of tools to diagnose the problem. And the problem I'm trying to surface is the root cause. And this requires a whole different understanding that did not come from any typography or identity design course. That doesn't come from that. And now I have to get into something else. And I'm going to read a quote here from the other author that I'm going to talk about today. And his name is Douglas Davis, and his book is Creative Strategy and the Business of Design. He's a graphic designer himself who then went to get a business degree. And here's a quote from the beginning of the book by somebody who looks up to, I think one of his professors, I'm not sure. Her name is Marjorie Coulter. And she said this: subjectivity is not a compelling rationale for a business decision. Okay, I'm going to read that one more time. Subjectivity, design, aesthetics, is not a compelling rationale for a business decision. There's not many words in this quote that I pulled. So the ones that are important is business and subjectivity and compelling, I think. So when we talk about a business decision, how many of you guys are asking questions about the business? I'm just curious. Of all you hybrid people, how much of your client's business do you get into? That's the problem. And we want to talk about that. Now, I'm just curious why you two leprechauns are here and what your backgrounds are. Can you step up to the mic and tell us what kind of business questions you're asking, if you don't mind?
Yeah, well, my background is pretty relevant. I started as a copywriter and then a brand strategist and then a designer and a developer. So I really work from initial concept to kind of completion. So we really get into...
Where are you from?
NBC Strategic.
Oh, the word strategic's in their name.
In our name.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a really extensive brand strategy process that goes into their target audience, their competitors, and fundamentally their business. We interview between 6 and 12 stakeholders and clients if they allow us to. And we try to parse through what they think they do and the way they know how to talk about what they do and try to get at the heart of what it really is. And our criteria are that it is differentiating, that it is true to who they truly are as a brand, to be unique, and that it's relevant for their target audience.
Thank you very much. What's your name again?
Liz Marie.
Liz Marie, thank you. All right, so now we're getting into something. And you are MPC Creative too, or Strategic?
So
go ahead.
A little bit, slightly different background, more on the SEO, SEM, and then user experience side of things. So my design background comes more in terms of like app design, and then how we're rescaling that to match the tablet, and then again the desktop screen sizes. So yeah, I think we also have like a similar process where we're asking those business questions about the brand to get the heart of the brand and just what makes them different, and then how we can use certain functionality on the website in order to achieve like a goal that would match that brand strategy.
Okay, thank you. What's your name?
Kyle Sherwood.
All right, pretty good.
Looks like they're all pretty solid on strategy here. So where does creativity come in the game?
Well, wait, hold on. There's only 2 people out of 15. And you just chalk it up as we're all pretty solid on strategy. Next topic. Yes, please. No, let's slow down, dude. Let's slow down. I mean, you guys jump in here, okay? We're starting to uncover some things here. And I think having a really robust dialogue that's truly just honest and just stripped raw is going to be the most productive, I think. Let's stop getting polite. Let's start getting real. I'm sorry, guys. That's the real world. All right.
There's one other facet I use the strategy for, which besides figuring out the business, is developing a commonality of language. Because I've discovered over the years, a lot of times people describe something in a certain way that is very different than what I think, and to use it as a way to kind of draw it out of them to get to it. So like, for example, you ask someone what kind of music you like, and they say rock and roll. It's like, well, what does that mean? And then I find out that it means they love hair bands. It has nothing to do with what I thought what kind of music they were really talking about. So I use it to help draw that out and to understand what it is aesthetically like they like and don't like, and on and on.
Yeah. Okay. Now, a lot of us, we know that we're target audience. I was taught that in school. Who's your target audience? And you would just tell me, and that would be that. Done. Check. Now what? How does knowing about your target audience tell you about the design? Does it?
You might have a target audience that's over 65, and they really have a fundamentally different, or require a fundamentally different user experience than an audience that's 15 to 25.
Right. You know, the thing too there is that I've seen this go both ways, where design friends of mine, classmates, would say, oh, it's 65, but I think we're talking down to them. Let's go younger. And everyone wants to skew young, and then it just winds up being the same thing you've always produced. Right? We've seen that happen. You give the same brief to 10 different people, depending on how well the brief was written, 10 different results. A lot of interpretation there. So, any other things that you guys have used in your training or practice, wherever, if you're a new graduate or still in school or been running a business for many decades now? Anything else that's in there?
So are you saying that through this process, that the result should be technically homogeneous? Like, because are you saying that there's only one right answer?
No. I'm not saying that. I feel like you're getting angry at me too. I know it's not really directed at me. It's all towards Mark. We just happen to be looking at me. I get it. Totally cool. No, it's not about homogeny, but I forget who said this, but a brilliant physicist said, like, I don't really need to know where the bullseye is. I just need to know what wall it's on. Am I facing the right direction? It's in order to be able to solve a problem, you kind of have to know the kind of general direction of what the answer looks like. And that's really critical.
So you're talking about treating the client as collaborator, which you should always do.
That's a part of it, I think.
Yeah. I think that's
Client as collaborator.
I think people don't treat their clients as
I agree.
What I also want to say is, I mean, as important as it is to check off all the bullets here and to find out more about the client's background, the product and all this, but they also expect us to be creative, to deliver something that comes with a surprise. If we just go by demographics and regional aspects and so on, we're mostly just dealing on the surface with stereotypes, with biases, but we need to go beyond this and then add to, as you said, we need to take it as guidelines, yes, but then go beyond that and offer something that's actually creative.
Wait, before we splinter off, can I get you to go to the mic? I'm going to ask you a follow-up question.
Me?
Yeah, you, please. And what is your name?
I'm Katie.
Katie?
Yes.
Okay. Katie, have you ever encountered a situation, are you solo? Tell me about where are you? Are you business? What are you? Where are you today?
I'm
Freelance?
working at a startup beauty company.
You're in-house startup?
Yep.
Okay, so you're in-house designer, 2 years out of school. Thank you. Just trying to do my demographics research here.
Sure.
So you're an in-house designer, Katie. Have you run into a situation where when you presented the design work, it was a total misfire?
And I think like what I do right now is there isn't a lot of like creativity involved. So like I'm not necessarily presenting things. I'm like having a conversation with someone at my computer about like I'm working under an art director, and what they say goes, I think.
That's usually how the chain of command works, and I get it.
So I'm not
Katie-
necessarily presenting my design
Okay.
ideas. I mean, I think that's how designers
It's a
can
very
be.
common thing. I don't know anything about you. We've never met before.
Sure.
You work in-house at a beauty company, so there's chances are there's already kind of a brand Bible. So a lot of the design things have been worked out theoretically. No, you said it's a startup? It's a startup, so I'm sorry. Maybe it's not as formulated, okay? And there's a staff and there's a hierarchy. One person says, this is what I interpret, I need you to do this. And if you came back with something radically different, there will probably be some issues. So this is how it works, and you're not saying that's good nor bad. It's just you wish you were involved a little bit more in these kinds of conversations, perhaps. And that's one of the biggest things. Okay, so thank you very much, Katie. So here's one thing that, whether you're an in-house person, a solopreneur, been running your studio for a really long time, whatever, one of the things that I think makes you less engaged with the project is the sense that you have no control over the outcome, period. This is where a lot of people come in, it's like, I wish they would do something cool. I wish they would do something a little different or more innovative. All that creativity, it shuts down. Daniel Pink talks about this in his book, I think, is it A Whole New Mind? Is that Daniel Pink? But he talks about autonomy. That to solve creative problems, not design problems, just creative problems, we need to be in control of what it is that we are going to do. We have to be self-directed.
How many of you have heard of the company Atlassian? Okay, looks like less than half. Atlassian is an Australian software company, and they do something incredibly cool. A few times a year, they tell their engineers, go for the next 24 hours and work on anything you want. As long as it's not part of your regular job, work on anything you want. So the engineers use this time to come up with a cool patch of code, to come up with an elegant hack. Then they present all of these stuff that they've developed to their teammates, to the rest of the company, in this wild and woolly all-hands meeting at the end of the day. And then, being Australians, everybody has a beer. They call them FedEx days. Why? Because you have to deliver something overnight. It's not bad. It's a huge trademark violation, but it's pretty clever. That one day of intense autonomy has produced a whole array of software fixes that might never have existed. And it's worked so well that Atlassian has taken it to the next level with 20% time, done famously at Google, where engineers can spend 20% of their time working on anything they want. They have autonomy over their time, their task, their team, their technique. Okay, radical amounts of autonomy. And at Google, as many of you know, about half of the new products in a typical year are birthed during that 20% time. Things like Gmail, Orchid, Google News. Let me give you an even more radical example of it. Something called the results-only work environment, the ROW, created by 2 American consultants in place at about a dozen companies around North America. In a row, people don't have schedules. They show up when they want. They don't have to be in the office at a certain time or any time. They just have to get their work done. How they do it, when they do it, where they do it, is totally up to them. Productivity goes up. Worker engagement goes up, worker satisfaction goes up, turnover goes down. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. These are the building blocks of a new way of doing things.
So some of that gets sucked out. So when we're in a relationship with any client, partner, vendor, we have to be positioned and prove our value that they want to involve us in the business decisions so that we're at the very top. This is when, I don't know who said it, said something about a common language. Who said that? All right, Rob. We have to have a common language. And what's the common language? He was talking about, which I love that he did this, is that even within the world of design, somebody says rock and roll, or somebody says bold and graphic, and that can mean lots of things. And it isn't until we distill that down into a certain degree that we're like, wow, we've got really specific, now I know what I need to do. But the common language I'm talking about is the common language of business. I'm going to look for a quote here. Okay? Here's Douglas Davis, the author of Creative Strategy in the Business of Design. He said, I lost creative battles because I was ignorant of the larger business or marketing considerations that informed aesthetics. Again, we're going to get right back to the business parts.
Yeah. Well, we have a typical situation here. We have a business person talking with a designer. That's conflict. That's different. Two languages, two objectives. The business. That's what he's also talking about.
That's what he's talking about.
B school versus D school.
That's right.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what I've learned, and believe me, it took me a long time, is really we have to change the narrative. We can't talk about font sizes and RGB, CMYK colors. That's awful. People don't care. They don't understand it. They don't care about it. And they have to fulfill their sales numbers. They have totally different objectives. If an ad looks nice, it's fine. If a website looks cool, it looks nice, but don't. I stopped discussing can we move this a little bit bigger or so. If the discussion goes in the direction something underlying is off, so we have to be careful about this. But once you switch the language to a business dialogue and talk to them about what is the purpose of this thing? Where do we go with that? What is our audience wants? Then all of a sudden it opens up a complete different narrative and allows us to inject our creativity, because all of a sudden it has some purpose, not a decorative element that
Well,
costs
let me ask
money.
you a question.
Go ahead.
What are some of the business goals that they tell you?
Usually it's a problem somewhere. Nobody wakes up in the morning and I need design. No way. There's usually we have a competition. We have a new product. We have our design sucks. I mean, we have got bad reviews. That could be anything. Could be a merger. Could be. There's usually always a situation that requires a design change.
Now, I may not be listening carefully enough here, but everything that you said sounded so far like an aesthetic thing.
Well,
Is it?
Aesthetic is part of it, of course. Aesthetic is what
Okay.
sells the product. What sells actually even the strategy.
So in your line of questioning and probing the client, do you ever get into user experience issues, lack of conversion on a campaign, or growing an audience, or something that matters to the business? So I've been running a business now, and I've been doing so for 20 years. What matters to me is revenue, efficiency, reach, marketing, better customer service. None of those things sound like an aesthetic thing. So this is, again, when we go into the dialogue and start asking questions about, you want it to look better, you want it to be new, we're doing something different and more innovative, but that all puts me right back into talking about design. So here's Mr. Blair Enns. Design is the application of strategy. It's a byproduct of what we do, not the product. You guys want to talk about that? I see some nods. I see some, like, what the fudge are we talking about? And that's going to tear your soul apart, you guys. If you're a graphic designer and you're watching this, you're like, what? It's the application of strategy. I don't do strategies. What is the application of? Arbitrary, subjective aesthetics. Okay, I'm going to get some hate. So go ahead and put the hate in the comments down below, you guys. I get it. I'll respond to you later. Okay, who wants to say something? Step up to the mic, please. Is it Liz Marie?
Liz, yeah.
Liz is your first name?
Liz
It's
is
not
my first
hyphenated.
name. Marie is my last name.
Marie, okay.
Yeah.
You guys went formal on me. Liz Marie, Social Security 454, I got it. Liz.
Yeah. So you asked when I commented on our brand strategy process, where's the creativity in that? And I think that quote kind of answers it for me. To me, it requires far more creativity to find a solution that answers and fits all of these molds and is interesting and visually compelling than it does to have no limitations and come up with something that's aesthetically pleasing. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely agree that design is a creative execution of the strategy that fits a business purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And strategy actually helps in the process, definitely. It provides the framework and the guidelines in which you can actually insert the design. Otherwise, design goes nowhere. I mean, it's all over the place and ends up in hundreds of provisions then, yeah.
Those of you guys that know me, I'm practically German, Mark. I really am. I don't look like it, but I'm super.
We're not finished yet.
No, I'm super logical. I really am. I want a clear process that I can repeat and have consistent results. And I look for logic to drive some of the more intuitive things that I do. I really do. And so I want to get back to what Katie is going to bring up, or has brought up about, so you're saying it can be one thing? And it's like, no, I'm not saying that at all. But we'll dive in deeper. I think we're starting to get some clarity around what we're talking about, right? Are designers, in the traditional classical design sense, are we going to start talking about the business goals, the business objectives?
Let me give you an
Okay.
example. We just had a project with a soap manufacturer here in California. Sells like big time, like hundred thousands of stuff to large big box retailers, and at a low price, $1 a piece. So it's really a big enterprise. He wanted to redesign a site, and because he wanted to reach out to a new audience. And in this case, it was pretty interesting because it was not really about selling more. It was just reaching out to different audience because he felt he was missing a purpose. He was missing a message. He was missing something that makes people fall in love with the product. It was kind of a commodity. He wanted to get away from the commodity, wanted to raise the product. So we ended up discussing the audience. We had the data about 59% women, lower social demographics, Midwest, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, all this already. And we found out for them, it was kind of a little bit of a luxury that people were buying for $1. It was really amazing, very sweet research. And so we started a new campaign that doesn't even sell soap. It's just about empowering those women. It was a little bit influenced by the Women's March here, and it's been slowly rolled out now. We get incredible feedback. We get stories from women who are sharing their strengths, or their stories of friends, stories of partners, of a grandmother who accomplished something. So it's almost like people falling in love with the product. And it's a beautiful thing. And this is where I feel like this is where design can be actually an afterthought. It's not the driving factor here. Here it's more the strategy is really driving the car here, which is pretty amazing. So sometimes we really have to get into.
You're confusing me.
Huh?
Are you arguing for what I'm
I
standing
was
for?
just gonna say the same thing. Like this started with you were worked up
Yeah.
in this email that this was a focus of the group.
Yeah.
But all I'm hearing is that like how great.
Like it's working. This is how it should be.
No.
I swear, guys. I'm like arguing
This is
with
one.
no one.
This is one example of where strategy was. And I'm not questioning strategy has a need in the design process. My concern was just it's been so blown out of proportion sometimes that it's almost that the design falls off the wagon. Like we have $100,000 strategy and $100 for the execution.
The sell is the strategy. The selling is too focused on strategy and not on the result.
And we see this over and over. Now, especially with
Are you going to agree with that? Can you agree with that or disagree with what Rob
Your
just said?
objection is that the selling is too focused on the strategy and the value
Like, where's the design?
of that versus the end result design.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying,
Yeah,
Mark?
yeah, really.
All right, okay,
I
you
agree
guys
with
got
that.
that?
Yeah.
Mark is saying that there's too much focus on selling strategy and not the design, because the design is the sex, it's the good, it's the execution, it's everything. And I do agree, execution is everything. After you
it's
figure
much
out what
easier
you're going
selling.
to do.
In a business context, it's much easier selling strategy than design. Most people have no understanding of design, what actually good or bad design is, but they understand the strategy. It's almost like strategy provides the guidelines to sell design.
I disagree. Good, let's get into it.
Here we go.
100% could not disagree with you more.
Yeah.
Strategy is easier to sell than design. Then all designers will be super successful right now.
No, I'm saying strategy is easier to sell than design, yeah.
Okay, strategy is
It's easier. It's the easier part. We're talking about the business language and the design language. It's, as we said, business people don't care about the fonts and the beautiful images.
Okay. Let's just say we're a really smart business person now. If strategy is so easy to sell, go sell strategy and do a bait and switch.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
Who's doing that?
That's what I hated.
Who do you hate?
No, it seems like you see a lot of examples where strategy is the driver, which
It
to some
should
degree
be.
is okay,
And it should be.
and design has become the afterthought. Obviously, so it translates.
So what it sounds to me like half of you on a logical level agrees that this must be the way.
No.
And then the emotional part is that I'm a bitter old guy. I don't really care. I want my old
ideally-
design back. I want my MTV.
Yeah, no, ideally it's a
What
hybrid.
is it?
It's a hybrid. It's a
Right?
hybrid. Yeah. Well,
Seriously, you guys. I mean,
that's why I was saying earlier, we need to define what strategy means, what design means. To me, it's
All right.
it's a hybrid.
all right. Okay, I'll tell you
That
something.
needs both.
Can I tell you something?
Go ahead.
I miss Tower Records. I miss going to the music store. I miss browsing the aisles and seeing the college kids work there and just bumping into some indie band I never heard of before and just, I never heard of you. packaging kind of cool. I got 15 bucks. Who cares? I'll buy it. Whatever. I missed that whole process. My wife's like, Tower Records again? Are you serious? You know? And I come home with a stack of CDs. Oh, that was crap. Oh my God. And it's going to go to Penny Lane. Except for in Japan, Tower Records doesn't exist anymore. And I'm sad about it. But I got to move on. We got to just let it go. Things are never as good as they used to be. Just ask any old person. They'll tell you. Things are never made as good as they used to be. And times were never as good. But absent a time machine, we have to move forward. Design has become a commodity. And that's in part, I think, because of two things. Because design education is available in a lot more places than it used to be. You can get it off the internet.
So why does
In a lot of
IBM buy
instances,
thousands of designers then, if it's a commodity?
They're buying
Why
different
do
kinds
we
of
see the
designers.
most innovative companies are run by designers?
Well, hold on a second here. Are we, let me just stick on one point at a time. Are you not seeing what I see? I see thousands of really high quality designers out there, more so than I've ever seen anywhere. From Egypt, from Africa, from South America, from parts of Asia, Czechoslovakia, Eastern Europe, just like tons of really great design. People who study lettering, little kids that are 17 years old that are just amazing at letterform design. So there's a proliferation of qualified, talented people from all over the world. Do we agree or disagree?
They all suffer, I know.
No, do we disagree?
Of course.
Like you shake your head and you say we agree, and I'm confused. You're sending me mixed signals, Mark. So we know that.
Ambiguous.
We also know that the price of design has gone down. Supply has gone up. Demand is static or not growing in relation to supply. Simple mathematics, economics, supply and demand are out of whack.
You could also say Coca-Cola is cheap, and that doesn't
Wait,
mean...
don't change the topic. This guy's like slipperier than a fish here. You see how fast he moves?
No. There's like
This
you're
is
saying,
why,
like you're
like,
saying, the price of
focus.
beverages has gone down because Coca-Cola is cheap. We can still get a good bottle of wine, and a lot of people
Why are
are
we
willing
talking
to
about
pay
wine
for
right
it.
now?
Huh?
You're doing mixed metaphors.
No, you're putting everything in the same bucket.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about real things. Designers, lots of them.
Yeah.
Money, not so much.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, now I'll answer the question is why, if design is a commodity, now you're saying design isn't a commodity or it is a commodity? Is it or isn't it?
It's both.
You can't argue out of both sides of this.
Of course I can. I mean, there's
No, you
a
can't.
wide spectrum. There's no black and white here in our industry.
I
There's
thought
a
you were
wide
German.
spectrum.
It's binary.
No, not at all.
Oh my
We
God,
see
what
a
kind
lot
of German
we
are
see
you?
a lot